Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Puffcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth.
I am Lemon, and we have a new third person here today.
Yes, today Lucas is not joining us today, but instead we have Jon. Introduce yourself, Jon.
Hello, I'm Jon. I am part of the same group that both Aiden and Elizabeth are, and I participate in the same things, and I do the same stuff as them. So I'm quite happy to be here.
Thank you. He means he is also a student of the Cinematic Arts Department here.
Which is kind of what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
We've been talking about media and like how all that is like changing and evolving over the past couple episodes, and I think the idea here is like, well, who cares? This is like why?
Who cares about our opinions?
Yeah, exactly. So like, well, here's a little bit. Like, I think there's a lot to be said about like what we do and like how, that kind of connects to what we've been talking about.
Right. So we just wanted to talk about kind of like our own filmmaking experiences, kind of what goes into it. Because also what I find a lot as like, high school film students, like I'll go, somewhere outside of school and they'll be like, what school do you get to? Oh, I go to Douglas Emerson. Oh, what arts area are you in? I'm in the Cinematic Arts Department. And then I either get like blank stare, like no response, or it's like, oh, like what does that even, do you guys just watch movies all day? Like what do you even do or whatever? And so I guess we're here to clear that up.
So like definitely like I got to like I have a lot of like family friends and things like that like in my family, and so I do the same thing where I have to try to explain what I do. It's a multi-step process of pre-production and production and post-production and a whole lot of planning before, after, and during that involves that, and it's incredibly complicated and complex. But like because people just think, oh, I'm gonna go watch a movie for 2 hours in my room, people don't think of it as that big of a deal, even though it really actually is an incredibly serious process.
Yeah. So why don't we start out kind of just going around and kind of explaining how we got into film, and then like what we've been doing here at DA over 4 years.
I got into it. I was the YouTube kid at the audition. Like a lot of people like kind of scoffed at me because a lot of like I didn't come in here with the idea that I wanted to go into Hollywood or anything like that. Like my concept of coming to DA and like getting into film was I'm going to get good at editing so that I can make high quality YouTube content and hit those big bucks, man. And like that was my goal coming in. And of course that's all changed now. Yeah, I just want to be an editor. I've kind of really fallen in love with the craft of it. But I mean, that was what I came to do, and I made short films before that, but it was really just like, we're gonna do a Ghostbusters parody because I want to learn how to do ghosts. Like it wasn't the story being told; it was I want to learn how to do that thing. So let's make a movie that lets me do that.
Yeah.
I've always connected visuals and stories from a very like long time ago. It's been kind of a lifelong thing for me. And from the beginning, like I've always entertained myself by like putting like a DVD in of a cheesy film that isn't really that good as like an elementary school kid and just spending a Sunday afternoon just watching that. I was never into video games. I was never into that kind of stuff. It was just movies. That was it for me.
Really?
Yeah, really. And so growing up, I was enamored by them because you can do whatever you want. There's no restrictions. Like the normal rules of the world don't apply. You can do everything.
And I think it's enamoring too, because like, unlike making a video game or a lot of other media like an album, you have to go and record it or something like that. A lot of us at least had access to cameras.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was kind of my situation.
So like, it was much easier to kind of get into it. Like, I want to be creative. How do I do that?
Right.
I can go make a movie right now.
Yeah. Like for me, I also kind of had that idea of like, with movies, like you can do whatever you want. Like, it's not limited to song or like, I don't know anything. So I just like, my parents kind of gifted me like one of those home kind of movie like camcorder things when I was like, literally, I think I was 6 or 7. And I just started like, just making videos of myself, like acting out skits or whatever, stuff with like my dolls, filming them, like, you know what I mean? And then that kind of progressed into middle school where I started like actually writing scripts like in a Word doc or whatever, and like inviting like friends over, having them like be the characters, and I'd film it like on my iPhone. and then edit it in iMovie. We all love iMovie.
Dude, iMovie's great. It's also horrible, but it's great.
Yeah. But then, and so like, you know, when it came time to go to high school, it was like, I have this awesome opportunity at DA to just like kind of, you know, do what I want. Like at the time I was like seriously like, I want to be a film director. This is the end all be all. So like, you know, really went in kind of running. And I'm still kind of like, you know, I've had a lot of filmmaking experiences. I won like a couple awards for films and stuff like that. So I've had success. And so I still want to do something in film. I know that probably maybe a producer, maybe still director, but you know, something in that field.
Yeah, I think a lot of us here would be like we don't want. I don't think anyone here really wants to be, you know, the next Spielberg. I mean, it would be nice, obviously, but like, I'm not going for that. I don't want that. You know, I don't want all that spotlight. You know,
right. I don't want to be famous. Really.
I want to. If I spend the rest of my life making music videos and movie trailers, and that was my career, bro, I'm happy with that.
That would be a good career.
Dude, I love editing
definitely.
those kind of things.
I remember like I had a very similar upbringing to Elizabeth in respect that I got an iPad 2 for my 8th birthday, and I would just film stuff.
8?
Like
Jesus.
Yeah, 8th birthday, and that was like the first device I ever got, and I would film everything on like video, and not edit it, because I didn't know how to yet, and you know, like over time I would slowly like grasp things. But, you know, I came here because I thought, oh, it's just like a continuation of what I want to do, you know. And, you know, of course, I did have the end-all be-all of, you know, I want to be in film as, you know, whatever I can get into it. You know, like back then I was like, oh, I just want to be a director. I want to be a writer or whatever. But, you know, now there's so many positions that whatever I can get into, I will be appreciative of it because I'm still a part of that process that allows me to create in a way that is no longer restrictive to anyone.
Yeah. I have I don't know. I mean, for me, I feel like I've gone, like, over the years, I've kind of learned what I like and don't like. Like, I know I do not like a lot of, like, the technical stuff. Like, I like cinematography, but I don't want to be the camera operator because I don't know. I'm not a techie person in that way.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of gets me into the next thing I wanted to do. I want to kind of, like, go through each step of making a film and kind of like how we do it and how we did it as like film students and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess step one is coming up with the idea, which this is where the most projects I think I've started have died. It's in the first stage. It's like,
yeah, that's definitely the hardest. Like,
well, just because like you have an idea, you think it's great, and then like the moment you start thinking about it, no, it's not. It's not great. Stop writing.
I struggle with coming up with it, and like I don't know. And people ask me like, oh well, how do you even get the inspiration for your films? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes like for my last film, like you know, I just kind of like figured out what I was like interested, and at the time it was like kind of like you know, music from like the 60s and 70s and like kind of like I don't know that culture and stuff. So I decided to make a film like in that time period and stuff. And so what I then did was I just kind of like went to a lot of different people, bounced my ideas off of them, and then you kind of like piece stuff together from like you know what other people say and just like it evolves.
Literally every step of the filmmaking process is collaborative.
Yeah, definitely. Like one thing that I've had to learn the hard way is that like no matter what like step of the process you're in making a film, while you have the end all like creative decisions of your film, you have to be open to like to different decisions and different like criticisms, because if your idea doesn't work, you can't just be like, oh, it's my idea, I don't care.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to change it.
Yeah, I've stuck to my guns before, and like, I mean, I think the script turned out okay, but like, you know, it definitely wasn't what it could have been because I didn't take that criticism into account, you know.
I guess the next step is actually writing the script, which I think is probably the most painful part. With second to the idea.
I don't know why you guys think writing is painful. I love writing.
I know
it's
you
so
like writing. I just don't.
Me.
I don't know.
I love dialogue and like putting in little. But the thing is, if you ever read one of my scripts, I know both of you have. It's like 90% dialogue.
It really
and
is.
And like 2 lines of action. And because the way that I kind of think about it is when I hand my actor the script, the actions that they take should be obvious through the way that they speak and like what they say. So like if there's one line of dialogue that says he lights a cigarette at the start of the screenplay, right? And then the rest of the film is just like he talks. Well, it's assumed throughout the entire film that he has that, and he's you know using it, and he's he twiddles his fingers maybe a little bit. That's all implied through he lights it at the beginning. It's gonna be in his hand.
You take a more interpretive approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to be as clear as possible when writing a screenplay. So like, dialogue is like the last thing I think about because
Really?
Yeah, because I've come to find out that I enjoy like having the visuals take control over dialogue. So I'm
kind of the same way.
yeah, having like the visuals tell the story instead of just people telling it to you, which of course isn't bad, but like just my personal preference.
Well, like storytelling 101, show don't tell.
Right?
Yeah.
Show don't tell. You definitely.
I mean, for me, like even from like coming up with the idea, I'm very visual. Like I can see it in my head. I can see the shots that I want, like from the get-go. So like when I'm writing this script, like that, definitely the visuals are like the more easy part, kind of like, because again, I can see it. Dialogue is so difficult to write in general. I know you like it, but I mean, it's just like capturing like how people actually talk and like making it realistic is kind of difficult.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of like crime movies. I'm a big fan of like the way Tarantino writes his movies and like that kind of quick, snappy style of no dialogue lines should be more than like 2 lines at most for me. Just because like you can really get what you want across in 1 word, like in most cases. Like that's the way I think about it. Which leads to some weird exchanges a lot where like a dude says one thing and he means 5 things, and like it's up to the watcher or the actor or whoever else is reading the script to kind of get what I want out of that.
But that's just well written dialogue because like dialogue inherently is not bad at all. I mean it's a very important part of a screenplay. But I don't like dialogue when it's just like there to explain everything.
Here is what I feel. Here is what is happening currently.
Yeah, but dialogue that has a purpose not just to the characters, but it has that great writing ability to have subtext within it. It's really something special, and you can like tell if it's like really there or just like fake or if it's not even there at all. Yeah.
Well, the next part.
I think it leads into
next part
production.
is pre-production.
Oh yeah, pre-production.
Well, yeah, just kind of briefly touch upon like then you gotta like actually make it happen, and that's kind of where the producing comes in. You gotta cast people. You gotta find locations. You gotta get props. You gotta get costumes. You gotta whatever you want. And sometimes it's a huge undertaking.
You see, the reason I forgot about that is because I usually don't do it.
Which is bad.
Like
most of the time.
I think I've told this story maybe once before. I'm not sure, but like my the film I tried to make last year. The reason I love that script, the political comedy I wrote. I love that script. The reason it didn't get made is because I didn't cast. I just kind of like said we're gonna shoot this day, and then I got to that day, and I was like I have no one to shoot with. Like I'm so used to like casting myself or casting this guy I know or like really just doing everything on my own that when it came time to do a bigger production like that, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and it is difficult like to find, especially like. As a student filmmaker and kind of like, Jacksonville's not a small town, but like it's not as big a population as somewhere else.
Even in like the industry, you hear a lot of stories of like, this movie had like 15 directors because they keep dropping out, or like this movie had like Tom Cruise was almost Iron Man, but he didn't want to do it, or like whatever. Like people just kind of.
But what I find ends up being helpful is just like connections and literally asking like every single person do you have someone like I needed an old car from the 60s, like do you have like I went to a random like car show and just started asking the like guys there with their cars, would you be interested in having your car in a film for free?
Really?
Yes.
See,
and
I
that worked.
don't have the personality for that. I can't talk to strangers.
But the thing is like a big part of my growth here idea is that I've had to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Because in elementary school and middle school I was way more shy and introverted, but now I've had to learn how to be like, hey, I just need this. Can I please have it? And like for no charge, no money. I just need it for a film, please.
Which if you're like your own kind of a one-man show of like writer, director, producer, like everything, kind of like how we do it, like you really have to be like that. In the real world, you can, there's usually you have 1 job, maybe 2 jobs, but like, usually that's producer's job, which I like.
Just get somebody to do it. But like here, like in a student film, you have to be able to walk up to a person and be like, hey, I need like you, or I need a thing you have. I need this place, because you have no other choice. That's
well,
it.
Next is actual production,
Which is
being
what I
on
was
set
gonna
filming.
lead into. Which is like, I think it's either the most fun or least fun part of the process, depending on who you are.
It's a very love-hate relationship with it. Yeah.
It's my favorite part. Like, that's what I'm like here for.
Okay, so you go first then.
Okay. Well, like everything else is kind of like, has a certain element of stress, and obviously being on set has stress as well. I think it's just so cool, like when you're, being on set in the location, people wearing costumes, like you've gathered all these people together to make one creative product. And I think that's so awesome to see, like, what I've had in my head for like months on end, and then like to finally see it like unfold in front of me, and like, I don't know, get that. I really like the energy that can be created on set. I've been on some sets where like, people clearly don't want to be there, and it's kind of like they're just there to get it over with, and I don't like that very much.
That's the worst feeling on a set of all time ever.
Yeah.
I think the best point on a set you can get to is when everyone's like having a fun time, or or just generally not loathing being there, because it's a job thing, not like a get-together thing. But like you said, like when there's an energy on set that just you get rolling with it and you get more and more into it, that's the best possible thing you can have on a set, because the time flies by then and you get everything done. It's great.
When I've been on a big set, the first thing on my mind is, holy crap, there's a lot of stuff happening around me and I don't know what most of it is. Like, I am so overwhelmed by most on-set occurrences that like I have a hard time keeping myself together. And of course that comes with a lack of technical experience. You talked about it earlier, where like you're not a big person with equipment.
Yeah.
Neither am I. I'm not sure how much you work with camera and all that, John. But like, so when it comes to like my set experience, yes, I've had those sets where like things go well and it feels very high team morale. But a lot of the time, it's like you feel good when it's over, because like, wow, we just did that. But during the whole, like, and while you're shooting, obviously, while the camera is rolling, everyone's like having fun watching the play happen, basically. It's basically like a live theater show, and that's great. But like all the planning and all the, okay, move the camera here, do it again, okay, but do it again this time, and like all of that, the behind the camera stuff, that stresses me out.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me.
I think it's definitely like depends on what kind of person you are, because I know you like the editing process and stuff like that. For me, like, I enjoy those moments, and it is high stress, but kind of like a good stress, and just it's like a puzzle a little bit. I don't know.
I've found that like one of the most fun times I've had on a set was actually on a set that I've been with you with on Matthias.
Matthias, really?
Matthias, yeah, because on that set, like, I was on the set and like an integral part of it, but I didn't need to have the huge stress of like of being like in charge of it. And so I was there like helping out and doing lights and things like that, and occasional camera work, but like I didn't have to be in charge of everything, and so it felt like very much like I was a piece of a larger puzzle kind of feeling. But I was still high enough to where I had that that big piece to fill. You know?
Yeah, you mentioned that's I was audio on that set, and like I guess it's a different feeling, because like for me I had to be like, I had both the director and the producer basically on my neck, like, did you write that down? Okay, do we need to do that again? They're asking me if we need to do that again, because I was the one who was listening in and making sure everything was working correctly.
Yeah, that's a big stress.
You know that, and I'm usually in that position where I'm the one watching the camera. I'm the one looking at the audio. Maybe that's my choice in position, I guess. I don't know. But so I mean, different strokes. You know?
Well, and that's there's a lot of roles in film in general, so that everyone kind of finds their niche. Like I like being on. I used to do audio for some, like when I was like a sophomore and freshman and stuff like that. But I definitely prefer being like the director.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I think that's just how I am. But yeah, well, once you've shot your film, then you take it to the editing room
and you
and
take
put
it
all together
to some guy in a very poorly lit room. He's probably got some Doritos in there. Like it's,
or yourself.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's. Still,
I edit all my films.
But,
yeah, me too.
I mean, it's still a dark room.
Right. Yes.
It's like it's been referred to as my cave before, where like someone comes in, it's completely dark. It's just the screen. I've got like headphones on, just like.
Yeah.
You know, just
little rats going around editing your films.
But
Well, that's your favorite part. So
it
why
is.
don't
It
you
is my
tell
favorite
me
part.
why?
I don't know. I enjoy. You mentioned like how it feels like a piece of a puzzle. It feels like a puzzle to me. Like I feel like I'm looking at everything I've been given, and most of it is useless, and I have to find the good stuff and like put together the most perfect, pure version of this story that's being told. And I find joy in that. I find joy in being the one person you can point at and say, he put that together. That's what I like, is like being that
I
person.
can kind of agree, but I think my joy out of editing comes in when, you know, you take all the footage that you've seen kind of out of order and out of place and, you know, in its fullest extent on set, and you put it together and you see the story that you wrote from the beginning, like really forming into the way that you thought it.
Right.
And becomes like, oh, wow, I made this. Like,
Well, that's the
this
thing.
is it.
That's the thing, though. A lot of the time, the story that I shot is not the story I edit. You know, a lot in most of my product actually, there's at least one change, like one major change that I'm like, actually, that works better if I put this here and like
Yeah.
I'm completely changing the order of that scene.
Right.
because
Well, that's why like the editor is seen as kind of sometimes like the last director
Yeah.
of a thing, because like really like, you know, things change in the edit. Like I've added like an entire sequence that I didn't think was going to be in there before. You know.
Well, like I edited a major project last year, and legit, like we would take two separate scenes and intercut them together into one scene, and it worked much better because you could see the direct like correlations between, you know, two very disparate things, but it worked much better than it read. You know, like it read great on the script, but when you put it in the order it was in the script as, it felt kind of separate and long-winded.
Yeah.
You know, so you kind of smush that together. And a lot of editing is compression. It's like taking this 10-page script and making it into a 5-page film. And like that's a lot of what happens.
Yeah,
there.
speaking of that, I actually like a thing to note about like all three like parts of production, you know, every step of the way while making a film is that it's like no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you want to organize, it's always going to be very fluent and very, you know, open to change, and you have to be open to change because, you know, you can change, like writing a script, you can change on set and be like, oh, this scene doesn't work, I'm not liking this.
There's a saying we have around here. It's you have to kill the baby, and like and what that means is like a lot of the time you have a single person who writes, directs, and edits their film. And when you get to that, a lot of people are resistant to change their script or resistant to not use that shot because it looks so good. Doesn't matter if it looks good. Doesn't matter if it worked really well in the script. If it's not working in your edit, you gotta cut it.
Yeah.
And you gotta be open to making those changes. And you know, you gotta be able to kill your baby and make it different and make it into something that you didn't plan for. You know.
I mean, for me, like I think editing. I do enjoy editing. Maybe it's like my second favorite part or something. Because I do. It's kind of like you said. I like, you know, like piecing it together. You know, then it's really like that's the final product. I guess the only reason I don't want to be an editor, like as an actual job or like career or whatever, because I just don't. I don't know. I don't want to be like in a dark room for like my whole like all day and just like that's, you know, and that's honestly what you have to do. Like when I edit, like, you know, it feels like, oh, only like 30 minutes has passed. No, like 3 hours has passed. And I know like I would not be enjoying doing that as like a job or like all day long. Well, once the film is done, then you show it to people.
They don't like it.
I like showing my films to people. I know you don't, but
I run out of the room when it's showing.
Yeah.
That's more of a thing for me though. I don't mind if other people see it, but I hate watching my own films because all I see, and this is a quote that I'm taking from a video I watched about filmmaking. I don't see the story. I see everything else held together by duct tape just outside the frame.
Oh God, yeah.
sure.
I do that too, definitely.
Like I don't see whatever's happening. I see Jimmy over there barely holding the mic out of shot. I see the fact that, you know, I lost 5 actors and this guy was the last guy I had, and like all of that, I can't look at it. It breaks me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know people have that experience. I just kind of, I don't know, I just don't really feel that way. I enjoy seeing people's reactions, and because that makes me feel like, oh, like my film has impacted someone. Like when my last film kind of had like a melancholy ending, and when people come up to me like, oh, I watched it, and honestly, like I teared up at the end. I'm like, yes, like that's what I want was going for. I'm glad,
I come
that
back for all the
that.
criticism. I just can't watch the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best part of like the final product part of it is, like, I think that if I've pulled off my thing or at least a part of my film relatively well, I'm incredibly proud of that one specific part.
Well, yeah.
And I feel like awesome to show that to people. So, like, for example, we just made like a few ads in one of our classes, and I don't know why, but I think I pulled off the comedic timing in mine like kind of well, and like more well than I usually do. And I felt, even if it was a small thing, I felt incredibly proud of that, and I felt really happy to show that to people and be like, wow, I guess they do appreciate that, and they think the same way I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then sometimes, also I think people don't, who just aren't, don't do film, like don't realize is then a lot of times you submit it to a bunch of film festivals, and there's a whole ton of student film festivals. So hopefully it wins some awards for you and you get some recognition.
Yep.
Well, I think that wraps up our film discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you, John, for contributing.
Yeah, I mean,
You're
this is something that I know you wanted to talk about for a long time. I mean, I think it's interesting. Hopefully, it was interesting for you. Whenever I describe what I do here, I always say, I don't go to school for 8 hours. I go to school for maybe a class or two. Then I go to work, and then then I leave and I go somewhere and I enter a completely different space, and it's kind of this different atmosphere, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love the filmmaking atmosphere. I think more than any part of it individually is just the way that it all, kind of encapsulates itself.
Yeah. Like as far as school goes, I enjoy coming here and like feeling like there's a purpose to what I'm doing. Like I actually feel accomplished and like passion for something, whereas like maybe in math class I don't necessarily feel passionate about my calculus homework and stuff, but like here it's like, oh, I'm actually doing something like that's really awesome.
So like she said, thanks for joining us, John.
You're very welcome.
Maybe we'll have you back at some point.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Let's see.
Do we want to talk about WandaVision?
Oh yeah.
So we said last time, last
seen
episode was about WandaVision, just the show itself. And so we said we'd touch on it every podcast, just like with the new episodes coming out.
So remember when I said that Agnes was definitely Agatha Harkness? I said that?
Yes.
She was.
Yep, well, there you go.
I've read comic books.
Here's the thing, I have not. So watching that episode, it was like, oh, okay, she's like the bad guy, I guess. But I don't know, it was a nice reveal. But I feel like I'm like not as happy as like people like you are, who know who she is, because I'm like, oh, she's like just an evil person who has been there.
I didn't know either, but I enjoyed that. Twist,
it was a catchy song.
It was a catchy song.
It was a fun twist. It was like a nice just punch in the face of how let's have just a really like comically evil person for no reason at all. Like that's so fun to see,
I think I said last time I felt kind of indifferent about it. Like I wasn't, I liked it enough to keep watching it, but I wasn't necessarily excited. Now, it's definitely picked up. I'm into it. I want to know why, or I want to get in there. I want to,
well, next time we do one of these, it'll be over. So
so we can fully discuss.
I think then we can fully discuss where it's going. For me, I wonder where the kids went at the end of the last episode. Did Agatha make the kids? Maybe.
They fake.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious of where the show goes now that they've opened a big new door of possibilities.
Yeah, and I mentioned last time that this show ties into a bunch of future movies. So I'm really interested to see where all these magic concepts, and they're kind of touching on a bunch of new stuff here, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. Again, not a lot actually has happened in a case of development of stuff. We've just kind of seen more and more into this weird world. And I think I said last time, I'm interested in seeing more weird worlds from Marvel. For the longest time, we've seen kind of the same couple of things. And, we're breaking new ground here.
All right. Well, that has been an episode of the Puffcast.
Yeah, that about covers it.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
I've been Elizabeth. Goodbye.
I have been Lemon.
And I'm John.
So long, partner.